Hey, it's TDA, and welcome back to episode 6 of my Dyson Sphere Program Let's Play. Last time we finished setting up the red signs, or actually optimizing our red signs over here. As you can see, it's producing along quite nicely now. Our research is progressing quite quickly, and we now have the ability to fly and go off-world if we want, which we will do in a second. But before we do so, I realized that there was one thing in our little mall over here that we didn't actually talk about yet. And considering how useful it is, I figured we might as well give that a go as well. So, all the buildings that we need in the initial phases of the game are here, so nothing wrong with that. But one thing is not here, and since most of this production here is just gonna sit here while we wait anyway, we might as well take advantage of that. And I suggest by doing that in the following way. One thing, it's not actually a building, but it is quite useful for building in general, is, well, it's actually not a building, but it is this thing, the foundation. This is what you need in order to basically level the ground. If you decrease the height of anything that's raised, you will get a little bit of soil pile. Great word to pronounce in my language. And then the thing that you use the soil pile for is actually raising lower areas like these oceans over here. If you want to build anything in the middle of the ocean, you will need to put in some foundation, but the foundation by itself won't actually do anything. You also need to have those materials on hand, which you can only get by leveling the ground. Now, a trick to do is to get soil pile, because if you're just building stuff, you will get a little bit of that, but if you're going to fill in an entire ocean, that's not going to cut it. What you can actually do is use this, and I'll show it in a minute, just to flatten any random area of the game, any random area of the game that is where you haven't already done it. And then by doing that, you will get soil pile, even if it's just an area that you've already put buildings in. Doesn't matter. You will still get a little bit of soil pile for every little bit of foundation you place. And this is really annoying me because these are there's no way we can perfectly align these, I think. So we'll just have to do it manually a little bit like this. As you can see, there's a shift in the grid here, so this is why I normally recommend building from east to west or west to east. We have actually been doing that here, but because we're on the threshold here, we are still getting a little bit of an issue. As you can see by the behavior of the sorters over here, they still work no problem, but it looks a little bit funky. Anyway, doesn't matter. Why am I building 3 of these? Because you will need a ton of this stuff. And for that reason, I also not even putting in a maximum capacity here. If we get this entirely full, we will be using it. This does draw a lot of your iron, a lot of your concrete, and it will draw a lot of your steel. So if you have this in place, this is why I suggest putting it at the end of the belt for both of the steel as well as the concrete. It will draw a little bit on your production for everything else. We have plenty of concrete, we have plenty of steel, so it will never be used up, but it is quite useful to have some on you. And we also need to have that on us before we go to the other planets. So before you go to the other planet, I suggest cleaning up your inventory a little bit. You can probably go even further than I've done over here. For example, we really don't need any storage. Storage tanks. You can put those back. We also do not need 50 of these, or at least not 2 stacks of these, so we can do it like that. I will also not be putting down any thermal power stations, so let's see, where are those? And as you can see, our research is just coming in quite fast now, which is always nice. We can actually probably bring a few more miners if we want. Maybe not 2 stacks, but let's take a full stack of 50. There we go. And by doing this, we have a lot of room in our inventory. Now, why do we need that room in inventory? We are going off-world for titanium and potentially some silicon as well. Silicon is not really the primary thing that we're going for now just yet, but we do want to go to a planet which has both. So let's check that out. This is our little system. And we have 2 other planets. Well, we have the gas giant, but we can't actually land on that. As you can see, it only has fire ice and hydrogen. Fire ice being very useful, don't get me wrong, but nothing we can use for now, because we'll need orbital collectors to collect that. But we do have this planet, which has a little bit of silicon, has quite a bit of a titanium. It has wind and solar energy. Solar energy actually at 136%, so it's a really efficient way to get your energy up and going there. Of course, you need to make solar panels in order to do so, which requires silicon. And then we have this planet, which has more silicon, not even that much to be honest, but it also has titanium ore. However, the problem with this specific planet is that it has 0 wind energy. And since we don't actually have solar panels, it will be a real pain to initially get anything going on this planet. I think we actually have 1 solar panel in our inventory or something somewhere. I'm not even sure if we even researched it yet at this point. I think it's in the queue. Long story short, because there's no wind here, we will be going to this planet. But we will need this planet as well because of the fact that we only have 500,000 silicon, and that will be gone. Well, not quickly, but it will be gone in a relatively short time. Now, in order to fly to a planet, the best way is just to put an indicator. Just click on the planet, press indicator, so you know where you're flying to. And this indicator will then also show up in the real world, so to speak. So I need to go in that direction. Hey, yeah, there it is. You can just fly by looking at where you need to go, but yeah, not ideal. But you also need to, oh, there we go. There's our solar panel. I just researched it, I think. Another thing to keep in mind is bring some extra energy with you off-world before you go. If you get stuck in the outer space without any energy, you will probably end up loading your game. Yeah, you don't want to get stuck without energy off-world. Alright, so let's go.
In sailing mode, you can control the mecha go to different planets or planetary systems by following the arrows in the space navigation. Hold down the shift key to accelerate, back arrow key to slow down. You can also use the Q, R keys to hold down the right mouse button, dragging to sideward flight.
Now what I like to do when I'm flying is actually press the middle mouse button so you can rotate, and press forward while you do that. So the mech will automatically align to where you're flying. If you start pressing the left or right arrow buttons, or in this case A or D, and the keyboard equivalents of that, you might actually start splashing around a little bit. If you zoom in, it becomes a little bit easier to notice where you're going. When you're flying, you want the bias to be relatively low, and the bias just takes into account the fact that the planet itself is also moving while you're flying. So getting the bias relatively low will align you to the planet, but as soon as you get close, just plummeting into it typically works just fine. Alright, so we're here. Let's check it out. Remember, we came for the silicon and we came for titanium, so we want a little bit of both, somewhere close to where we set up. The only vein of silicon, as you can see, there's only 500,000 on the planet, is over here, which is actually on the pole, which is not ideal, but we'll have to deal with it. There is a very large vein over here for titanium. Yeah, the other veins are either just as big, far away, etc. So I guess we're going to the pole. And that should be over in this direction. And as you can see, when you power up and you speed up through the space, you draw a lot of energy. You don't necessarily have to do this. You can just fly slow, of course. But yeah, slow is very slow indeed. Now, before we get started, again, let's see, this is the pole. And we want to go to that vein over there. And we need to set up power. Without power, we're not going to be able to do, well, anything. There is a lot of lava on this planet, which always gets in the way. But for now, there's nothing we can do about it, because of course I forgot to bring my foundation that I just talked about. Not a big deal. For now, we won't have enough soil and or foundation anyway to do a lot of stuff anyway, but if we do it like this, we should have enough power to do our initial setup. We won't be doing that much on this planet yet. Wind power isn't ideal either anyway to basically fire up your entire power production just yet. But this should take care of the essentials initially. Now what I also like to do is actually remove these for a moment because they're exactly on the line that I was aiming for. You have these thicker lines here that indicate the meridians, as we call them. So these are lines that go all the way to the center. They are uninterrupted lines. Actually perfectly aligned with the middle.
You have unlocked the vertical construction technology. When building facilities such as Matrix Lab, storage, and storage tank, you can try to build them vertically to make more efficiency use of space.
Efficiency use of space. Right. Okay, so this will get us a feel a little bit on where we are on the planet in case we ever get lost. And also make sure we have power across the entire planet. Way more than we need at this point, because all we are going to do is actually set up a little bit of titanium production, and we are going to set up a little bit of silicon production. Since we are here with the silicon anyway, let's start with that. So we kind of want to see how, if we can fit maybe 4 full miners. You can go for more actually, you can just go for, let's do 6. We need 1 more, preferably with 6. I can manage it. And again, this little lava is getting in the way. For a moment. So I think we should be able to do this. That's 6. And that's 6. Okay, there we go. Power poles, luckily we brought about 100 of those. That means it all gets powered. And then we of course need to set up some constructions. Now this is maybe a good moment to show you how blueprints work. We will have 6 ore per belt, and we'll have 3 belts, so we can either set it up 3 times, which doesn't take that much time. You could do it a little bit more efficient than that. Now let's say we do it like this. We just build it once. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So a little bit less long than that. That's just the outgoing. I'm making that a little bit longer so I can tell. Going in and going out. We are going to be smelting titanium over here. Actually, maybe you shouldn't do that if you want to make the blueprint universal. So you just build whatever you want to set up initially. You can include power if you want. So it's all good and ready to go. You go to the blueprint. I have no blueprints installed here yet. You say create blueprint, you just drag and drop. You say, okay, this is the area, this is the thing I want to be able to reproduce quickly. It will tell us in this case that we have 61 facilities. The initial limit is 60, by the way, so if you build anything larger than this, initially it won't work, but since I have researched the 150, it should work fine. We can give it a little picture. Give it the names, let's say smelter times 6. You can fill in all other details if you want, but just for sake you say save, it will be here. And then if I want to do this again, I can just click the button and say, well, just build that again, but then over here. And then, hey, let's say I want another set of this. just build it over here. And then by copy pasting, we have now constructed this 3 times, and it's completely identical every time. The thing that you just saw, by the way, is that if you try to do this and you go over this meridian line, it won't actually work. The tropic lines, they call it here. These are the places in the area where on the map where the grid changes, and yeah, the blueprints get a little bit messed up because of that. So you can't actually cross any of these tropical lines. Isn't a big deal for now, because that's not actually anything we need. We will set this to titanium. Shift. Copy. Also a few tabs too many. There we go. There we go. There we go. It's all set. And of course we do need to make sure we hook them up. Let's see what will be the most intelligent way of doing this. Probably like this. I should probably have given myself a little bit more room to work with, but we'll make it work. Next one. Let's put the other one to this one as well. This is a little bit more messy than I normally go for, but hey, it works. And this will get connected to that one. And this one will be a little bit simpler. You can just build over the lava. The lava does not work any differently than the normal ocean does. So no need to worry about your stuff burning or anything like that, or transporting hydrogen over lava being a bad idea or anything like that. It'd be funny if they put that in, but for now, there's no difference other than the way it looks. Our mines has just become a little bit more efficient, so that's good as well. Just charging myself while draining the energy and while we're building this, so this goes a little bit faster. Let's check our research, because we have actually researched most of the stuff we wanted for now. Yeah, so let's see what we want to be aiming for. Actually, let's cancel this for a moment. We will be going for the high efficiency logistics. After this we need thruster. Are we already? No, we are not researching that yet, so we'll go for thruster. And then planetary logistics. And at that point we will also need some upgrades, probably. Let's see, where is the yellow science? Did we have already? Structure matrix, there we go. So there's quite a few things that we actually need to research before we can go really automating our interplanetary stuff. But this should take us quite a long part along this that line. Let's see, can we move this? Let's set up some storage, because of course we are producing a lot of stuff now, but we're actually not doing anything with it. And bringing this out a little further. This one. This one. 1, 2, 1, 2. We can stack these 3 high by now, so that's a lot of storage we have over here. And then of course making sure these are actually filled up. Now we have 3 trips per sorter, and we are producing 6 per second on these belts. So this one should actually, if you do it like this, this should entirely fill up. As you can see, almost entirely fill up the first one. But we might as well make sure we are always maximizing production as long as we have storage room. So if we double up on that, it should always be working as intended. Okay, so this is making sure we get a lot. Why is this still on here? Doesn't matter. A lot of titanium. And while it is working, let's hop over to the other side, because we also want to have the silicon going on. Now what you can actually do, depends a little bit on what you want, but what you can actually do is set up a solar panel production over here. You need some circuit boards for that, you need copper, and you need silicon. Well, silicon we have over here. Copper we have over here as well, and we probably have somewhere near some iron as well that we need to complete this stuff. Yeah, that's over here. It's like quite large veins, as you can see. So if you want, you can set up a little silicon production along with a solar panel production. And that might actually be quite useful to do, because solar panels is what we will need to power the other planets, since that had no wind energy whatsoever available. As you can see, we're actually taxing our production quite a bit, but we have actually not built all the solar energies, the wind energies that we planned. So let's build the rest as well. Now the thing to keep in mind is what I just did is I am acting as if I have enough room, but these ones are actually not connecting. So if I want to have my power actually contributing to the entire system, I need to place a few of those power poles in between, or use foundation to fill the gaps and make sure that we're actually using that. Now we don't actually need this production to be 100% optimally functioning. Of course that's ideally what we would want. But we will be building a little bit on this planet, leaving it for a bit and then coming back to it. So it will have plenty of time to work. As long as it's actually producing, we won't notice the difference between it being completely optimized and maybe needing a little bit more time just because we are at like 70 or 80% power. Alright, this gives us a little bit of impression on how the planet looks on our map by just placing those buildings. Now what we want to do initially, again, is set up some basic silicon production. We will be doing that by the blueprints, since we just made that anyway. You can, if you zoom in the blueprints, you can actually see in which direction the items will be moving on your belt. So from left to right. I'll actually not make the same mistake again and give myself a little bit more room this time. There we go. Just 2 full belts will do for now. Making sure that production is actually connected. Actually, we can do that through the miners. It's quite a small little... So we might actually struggle a little bit on optimizing the use of this specific vein. But I think we should be fine. Maybe not putting it in the middle of there will be more helpful. This is 6... 6 and then some. 6 plus. And another 6. There we go. Now building this on the pole is always going to look really ugly because the grid shifts so many times here. Like I said, it's not ideal to have anything on the poles really. But yeah, this is where our vein is, and going all out of our way to construct it somewhere else doesn't really make a lot of sense at this point either, I think so. We'll just make it work. Did that actually connect up? I don't think so. Oh, it is. Nice. Okay, so silicon over here. And same thing. Let's extend expand this a little bit. So we have some room for storage. Making sure everything we built here is not going to waste. I'm a little bit more conscious on where I'm placing these sorters because I'm likely going to want to have stuff moving out of here as well. At some point. Why is this second one not working? Oh, apparently we were just constructing the little belt. It's coming in now. It's a full belt, as you can see. So there is our silicon. Now if we do want to make the solar panels over here, and that is something we can do, we also need to set up a little bit of copper production, a little bit of iron production, and then the circuit board production. So we can do that in a very similar way. Let's not overcomplicate it too much. Let's say we need to make sure you flip it around in this case. Of course the production will be moving the other way. And actually it's ideal because the outgoing is on the top. So this will be our iron, this will be our copper. We will need some circuit boards there as well. Not that many. Let's make that 2. Those will benefit from our copper. Those will benefit from our iron, and then we have outgoing. Those, and then if we combine that with an outgoing for the silicon, then we can do this and have a little minor setup here for our solar panels. Now solar panels we do want quite a few of, but we don't need the full storage unit of it, so that should be fine. Have one outgoing. We need this, we need that, and we need that. Here we need, yes, fuel rods, yay. And as you can see, the research, it takes quite a little bit of time, but we are working on setting up our production anyway, and in the meanwhile the research is going, so even though it feels like it's taking quite a long time, and it is, and we're taking like 5 or 10 minutes per little setup we're making anyway, and in the meanwhile the research does the job. By the time we get around to the new stuff, yeah, it will be done. This is not where we would want to be making those. This is where we build our solar panels. This is where we build our circuit boards. Copy paste. The circuit boards will be drawn from that, putting out from that, and drawn from that. Paste. Now this does actually need copper as well, but we're making way more copper than we are putting into the belt. Then we're putting in the circuit board, so we should have more than enough for the solar panels left over. Over here we need the copper, shift, and paste tab. There we go. And then we here have the iron, shift, paste. And then, of course, we also need the silicon, so that's why I mentioned we were a little bit more careful on how we were placing our outgoing and ingoing belts on these items, because now you can see we are actually bringing some silicon over here as well. We need to power all of this up, but we also, of course, still need to do the miners. There's just one belt per item. We won't be making this a full-fledged production yet. Did I do this right? Yes, I did. So this is the bottom one, is the incoming belt. Let's just not make it too difficult on ourselves. Just look like that and just bring the belt around. Like so it's a little bit more neat. And then last but not least, do the same thing for the iron. So over here we have the iron. 1, 2, simple as that. Bring the belt over there, connect it up to the incoming belts, and then all there's left to do is make sure all of this is powered up. But we are out of turbines. I was about to say we can place some turbines there, but that won't work since we are out of those. Now this is really annoying. Oh, I didn't actually place that one. I was about to say, why is it not connecting? We'll do it carefully past the roads. So that one is connected. If we place that one, that should also be connected. Then we need to make sure we have our assemblers over here connected. And then finally, if we put that one over there, I think we should be up and running. So let's check. Where did my music go? It's so silent. Okay, so as you can see, we have a full belt of copper coming in now. And we should have a full belt of iron coming up as well, which is not completely full belt. So let's see where that goes wrong. Oh, it's a power. It's 60%, but that happens. We could actually fix that, assuming our solar panels are being produced. So let's see, we have circuit boards coming in. We might actually want to do this like so, because the circuit boards are coming in faster than the items can pick them up, or the sorters can pick them up in. And there you can see our first solar panel. Now solar panels are interesting because they produce 360 kilowatts. So if we look at our, a bit far away, at our turbines, compare those, you can see these produce, it doesn't actually say, these produce only 300, so it's a little bit more what solar does. Of course, it's a lot more expensive since you need to have the silicon, and you don't have that on your initial planet. You can make it from stone, by the way, but it's such an inefficient process that I don't recommend doing that. As you can see, if you look at the recipe over here, you can make silicon ore in 10 seconds from 10 stone. You can make 1 silicon ore, and then you need 2 of those to make 1 bar of silicon, high purity silicon. It just takes forever and needs a huge setup, and you need to draw on a lot of your stone in order to do so. Stone isn't really rare or anything like that. It just takes a huge amount of setting things up to get a little bit of silicon, where you can easily get it on a different planet. But yeah, as you can see, we have a nice amount of solar panels coming up over here. It'll take a while to process. But the nice thing is that they are completely independent. They don't need any inputs, just like the turbines, other than solar energy. And that only works if it's not actually night on your planet. So right now we can see the sun somewhere. Oh, the sun is actually going down. So as soon as it becomes night, so on the dark side of your planet, your solar energy won't actually be doing anything until the sun comes up again. So solar energy works best if you make, similar like I've been doing with these turbines, if you make rings around the world, so you always have power from your solar energy. And even then, of course, you will always have a little bit of downtime on your solar energy whenever you do that. Some people really hate that. They dislike the whole lines of solar energy. Personally, I think it's quite fun. It also looks really nice if you ask me. So just to kind of show you what it looks like if you make a nice ring of solar panels. There you go. Looks really nice and sweet. I like the lights, and you can actually see them moving with the sun. So yeah, you can see them. They are actually turned towards the sun now, where the sun is rising. And as the planet moves and as the time progresses, you will see the little solar panels move their face along the lights until it's gone, and then the next night they will turn back up again, or the next dawn they will turn back up again. So Yep, really nice. We have placed a few of these to increase our power as well. So our power is actually up to 70% now. And now I've done all that talking. Let me check back on our titanium veins. We can fly over there to check it out. And we have a very nice storage of titanium coming up over here. So this is all the titanium we need. You can always fly a few times back and forth if you need more. We will probably need more at some point. But it's quite a quick trip up and down. I do suggest again, before you leave the planet, charge yourself back up. Make sure you still have a stock of energy. Apparently I was running low. I burned through all of the stuff I had with me. Which in this case is not that bad. We can leave that here. Let's just delete that. We have plenty of room left over now to bring a lot of titanium ore. Why is this working so slowly? Oh, that's just because the other one is filling up first. Never mind. So we have a full inventory of nice titanium ingots. So much in fact that I can now not bring my power towers. I do want those with me. There we go. Alright, so you can go back into the planet mode. Find our initial little planet, which is Nivera 2. Set the indicator, and off we go. But before we do that, I think that wraps it up for this episode. So we went to the other planet, we set up our titanium production, we did some more research. Oh, actually what I forgot to mention at the start, so let's fly over, let me show you. Because when we set up our blue science production in the last episode, or actually upgraded our blue science production in the last episode, we added some what was it, circuit boards, because that was our bottleneck. But then it quickly turned out that, of course, the next bottleneck that we ran into was our magnetic coils. And magnetic coils are very easy to make and upgrade as well, just like we did that with the circuit boards. Just add a few more smelters. It's important to realize that the magnets that you need in order to do so, they are a little bit slower to produce from the smelter than most of the other stuff you make. So take that into account whenever you make a upgrade to your production. Check the ratios that you need in order to really make your production efficient, and then adjust those accordingly. So we actually made a few additional smelters compared to the iron and copper smelters that we had in place. So we landed somewhere in the middle of nowhere. This is always the downside, I think. Where is our stuff? So let's get oriented. It should be somewhere around. Okay, so that direction. If you are kind of lost and you find your bearings and you find your base on the map, and you press M again, you see it flip back to where you actually are, but it also will show you the quickest route to that. So if you basically retrace on the way that it flipped the map, it's the easiest way to get yourself oriented and back to where you were. So this is the whole force of turbines that we had. And oh yeah, here we go. We are now approaching our little initial setup. So we added in a few more coils over here, so that everything is actually back up and running. Now you can actually see, this is why you don't need to overdo your production in any of these specific areas just yet. The science that we're doing now only needs red production, so we have actually filled up completely on our red storage, and it's just waiting for it to be used again. When you get back to the planet, I suggest that you put the titanium in a little storage unit for later use, and then we will be worrying about a few other things before we actually continue back on our titanium use, because we want to be setting up for the next little bit of science, and that will be a little bit complicated, I guess. Yellow science is a lot more complicated than anything we've done before. I'll need to do some preparing for that, and that means we'll see you back in the next episode. Please like and subscribe if you like this content. If you have any comments or suggestions, I'm happy to take those aboard. Apologies, this was a little bit of a longer episode, but since we had a lot of explaining to do about the foundation, and as well as the flying off world, it always takes a little bit of time. So I hope you bear with me, and see you next time.